Well, hello everybody. Larry Young here again with another segment of Old Man Living Life with Purity. And today I've got Alex Fiato back in the studio. Say hello, Alex.
Nice to be with you.
Good to have you back in here. Appreciate you coming back in. Today, in this particular segment, we want to talk about something we hit on before, and it has to do with George Washington's apparition and vision of the woman in his tent in 1777 when he was at Valley Forge, and things looked pretty dark against the colonial armies that were going on against the British at that time. And this woman came to give General Washington a vision of three perils that she spoke about. The first peril was the actual Revolutionary War that they were involved in at that time. The second major peril was the Civil War, which would happen some 90 years later, 100 years almost later, would go on, and then the nation would suffer that. And then the third peril is very much likened to what we're going through this very present day. And Alex is going to go through some of the timeline and some of the pieces of evidence that he's been able to assemble on this. And then also we're going to tie it in with the apparitions or the messages of Mark Taylor, a fellow who's had a number of prophecies that have come true. He was a big believer in Donald Trump in 2011, years before he even made any claim to even thinking about running for president or talking about it publicly. And so this has been on Mark Radar's list of things for quite some time. And then also there was another element of Mark Taylor about with our present day situation. And we're also then going to be talking about the assassination. This would be yesterday. Today is 9/11, the 24th anniversary of the Twin Towers attacks. And so we're recording today on 9/11, but a dear resource, I think is probably best we could say, was snuffed out yesterday, that being Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And this is very, very troubling, but this also goes along with the third peril that Our Lady had talked about. So we're going to talk about these things, try to make some sense out of this chaos that's going on around Charlie Kirk's death and what it means for those of us left, and how are we going to deal with this? So I'm going to turn it over to Alex to try to sum all this up a little bit and into a nice little bundle here for you to try to digest. So take it away.
Thank you, Larry. At this particular juncture, especially with the advent of Charlie being sacrificed and assassinated yesterday, we've presented many things about prophecy, things to come. We looked at Joseph Torellia, his involvement in the third peril of Washington. I think we're at the juncture. We talked about the rebuilding of the Third Temple, and there's a momentum at a political level to rebuild that temple, which is supposed to be an accomplishment in part with the Antichrist. I believe and we'll give some supportive information about this, that we are indeed approaching that period of time where the angel of America, with Joseph Torellia, the angel of America, dictating to Joseph Torellia that the angel of America wants us to be ready in action and in prayer to counter the Antichrist, that the angel said we are actually going to be, in the United States in particular, to draw together and prepare through prayer and action to counter the Antichrist as he rises. So, and then there's a number of different things of the doctors of the Roman Catholic Church and how they've articulated that particular aspect, and Vincent Maselli's, as well as the things that we learned in the End of Times with Maria Valtorta. So I think this is where we're at, and we're going to take a look at some of those constructs about the rise of the Antichrist. But a third peril, the narrative of the lady that's interfacing, which we believe is our Blessed Mother. The third peril has to do with the destiny of the United States of America. And so we're surrounded by darkness. We're surrounded by internal and external to divide and to destroy the United States of America.
And let me interject something. This all comes on the heels of Our Lady having said not that many months ago that the devil, Satan himself has unleashed more demons into the world at this time than ever before.
Yeah, and I believe
for the express purpose of this mission.
And I think Charlie was one of the sacrifices of that external.
He's only the start
of the demons.
Yeah, he's more powerful now than ever.
Yes.
You know, he'll be more powerful, more persuasive, more talked about, I believe, than Martin Luther King in time.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, just because of the magnitude of it and the volume of work he left behind.
Yeah, Martin tended to focus on the political, the injustice, so on and so forth, and where our Charlie focused on your basic, hardcore biblical teachings.
Well, he was actually, I said before, and I was telling you before we started, that he was actually the fellow who was talking about Our Lady's call to purity, but not saying it in that way.
Correct.
He was coming about it more of a Protestant view.
Nonetheless,
and I told you, I had met this young man when he was a very young man.
Yeah.
He was about 23 years old. It was in 2017, and I was working at the George W. Library at the SMU campus in Dallas, Texas, as a volunteer docent there. I was talking about the artwork I was telling you about. And a young Charlie Kirk came in with two other members of his team. They were coming in the day ahead. They were going to do one of these table discussions on the campus the next day, but they were in the day before, getting the lay of the land, and they ended up coming into the presidential library. And I had kind of seen him on TV before, so I recognized him, just this gangly young guy. But really what I noticed about him was he was so effusive. He had so much energy, so much light was coming off of this guy as far as his positive energy.
Like the divine indwelling.
Well, I think he was on his way to it. This guy was, I think he was very illuminated by something. And I don't know what it was. And I don't know if his religious fervor had really begun at that point, but he was more about, it seemed, about the politics and living a good life, and to live that after that he got into more of his talk as he matured, because at this time he was only 23. But as I watched him over the years, I was trying to relate to you. I think his message has always been about a call to purity in the way that I think Our Lady instructed, not in the Catholic form that a lot of Catholics always want to take ownership of these things. But Our Lady of America is not a Catholic thing. And the Catholic Church has not tried to own it and direct it. This is something that's for everybody, for all people. And the call to purity is a universal call. It isn't just for Catholics. It's for all Christians, and even, non-Christians, to follow this path of call to purity, which is a just and right way to go about giving honor, your natural state, back to God, your creator, but also to your community of people around you that you try to build this kind of common understanding. And I think that's what Charlie Kirk really pushed for when he did his public speaking.
Yeah, it was a beautiful force and light in the world for Christ.
Right, but I think that in a natural way, he was coming up with his own call for purity in our lives, because these are choices that we make. And so anyway, that's, I think, where Our Lady in heaven has sent us these certain people for these purposes.
Yeah, it was amazing that you would even meet him way back in 2017.
Well, I was meeting all kinds of people, but, I tried to put myself in a position to meet people of good regard and good esteem who would be coming through. And I thought, well, there'll be a lot of people going through the George Bush Library, and I thought that'll give me a good chance to meet quality people in the city of Dallas. And it did.
And I understand upstairs that you gave Our Lady of America medallions.
Yes.
Medals.
Charlie had 3 people in his group, so I went to my car and I got 3 medallions, brought him back in, and by the time I got back in, the other 2 had left, so I gave him all 3 medallions. I don't know what he did with them. He said, well, it was kind of funny. He says, I'm not Catholic. And I said, well, good news for you. I said, neither was she. And I said, so you got a lot in common already. And he just kind of smiled. I said, this isn't a Catholic thing. Although, the Catholics will try to own this. This is for everybody. And I said, I invite you to learn more about it. I said, it's not a bunch of prayers for people to try to direct themselves to each day. It's a way of living that matters. And this is where it is. It comes with this divine, this internal kind of drive. And that's when he kind of got this knowing smile, and he goes, oh, okay, I get it. And I said, hey, I'm not saying you need to wear the medallion. I said, put it in your wallet. I said, your buddies will think you're carrying a condom and you're cool, because it'll make that round, lump.
Did he laugh?
Yeah.
Okay.
He says, I don't think I'll be needing that. I said, I'm not saying you do. I said, but still carry it with you. Keep it on your person.
I wonder if he had those with him or where they were.
I don't know. That'd be a wonderful thing to know if that was in his wallet still.
Well, the other thing that was interesting, he began to talk about Blessed Mother and that being ignored. And he said, we need to bring this back to center.
Well, he had said that Our Lady, the Virgin Mary, is actually the antidote for feminist toxicity. And he's absolutely right.
Right.
There's no doubt.
You want to emulate somebody, emulate her.
Right. This feminine toxicity has to leave the arena. And with that, the male toxicity will go right along with it. Because as one, comes off the gas, the other one will too. So I think we're at a turning point right now. And I hate, it's kind of funny because that was the name of his group, Turning Point USA. But we're at a turning point right now in this whole discussion and argument, if a lot of people want to call it that. But things are going to be called out. The rhetoric on the left of calling for people's demise and anger about stuff has to stop. And if it doesn't, there will be, repercussions. Well, we're in war. We've been in a war. But the nice people don't want to say that. But there's been a war that's been going on for quite some time. And it's not going to change. It's going to move about. But the real war is coming. That's because the Islam has parried up and married into the Marxist group. And so these two have got this uneasy truce or relationship going on. But it's all about to try to come down on people of Christian faith or strong values who want to talk about these things in public, because Charlie Kirk apparently broke one of the unwritten rules of the leftist lunatics, is that you can't say that when all he said were things that needed to be said, and we need to keep saying them. Charlie Kirk probably saved more babies in the course of his discussions and debates than I would say quite possibly even Right to Life has done in total, just because of his enormous popularity and audience reach.
Oh, there's no doubt about him.
And he didn't do it in a way that condemned anybody.
He
did it in a way that said, educate yourself.
With logic.
Right. The Socratic method. And it's amazing. But we're in this path right now, so I hate to come off, but it's just like these two things all happened at the same time. We had been planning this discussion for a couple of weeks as far as this going on, and then this Charlie Kirk thing just happened, less than 24 hours
shocking,
ago. Here we are.
Well, let's take a look at the third peril and the turning point of that particular prophecy that Washington got. Now, it describes initially of the United States being surrounded both externally and internally, where darkness is enveloping the nation. And so there's a closing of ranks, or there's something happens where the people of the United States, and perhaps Charlie is part of this catalyst, that instantly a light of 1,000 suns shone down from above and pierced and broke into fragments, and the dark cloud which enveloped America. At the same moment, the angel upon whose head, would you hold that, Larry? Thank you. The angel upon whose head still shone the word union, and who bore our national flag in one hand and a sword in the other, descended from the heavens, and attended by legions of white spirits. These immediately joined the inhabitants of America, who perceived that they had overcome, but with immediately taking courage again. That we felt that we were overcome by the darkness, but then we took courage again and closed up the broken ranks and renewed the battle. Again, amid the fearful noise of the conflict, I heard a mysterious voice saying, "Son of the Republic, look and learn." As the voice ceased, and the shadowy angel of the last time dipped water from the ocean and sprinkled it upon America, instantly the dark cloud rolled back, and together with the armies it had brought, leaving the inhabitants of the land victorious. Then once more I beheld the villages and towns springing up, and I heard them before, while the bright angel planting the standard he brought in the midst of them, cried out in a loud voice, "While the stars remain and the heavens send down upon the earth, so will the Union last." And taking from his brow the crown on which was blazed the word Union, he placed it upon the standard, and with the people kneeling down saying, "Amen." The scene instantly began to fade and dissolve, and I saw last nothing but a rising and a curling vapor. I at first beheld this also disappearing. I found myself once more gazing upon the mysterious visitor, who in the same voice I heard before said, "Son of the Republic, what you have seen is thus interpreted. The great perils will come upon the Republic. The most fearful is the third. But in the greatest conflict of the whole world, united against her shall not prevail against her. Let every child of the Republic learn and live for his God, his land, and his Union." And with these words, the vision vanished. I started from my seat and felt that I had seen the vision, whereupon had been shown me the birth, the progress, and the destiny of the United States. This ended George Washington's vision and prophecy of the United States of America. So what do you think?
I don't know. You said a lot there. I mean, there's a lot of illustration and things like that. So what's going on with the water, the ocean coming in? I mean, what is it the wave of people coming in? I don't know. I mean,
well, I think that the greatest assault on the United States is a release of demonic influence.
Well, we've got that going on. I'm trying to figure out how, when the angel is coming along and setting the standard, and then taking the crown off and putting it on the standard or the flag. So putting the Union over the United States flag, okay? And so now this Union is at risk with this third peril.
The Union's at risk, and if it wasn't for divine intervention, but there had to be something with the people that brought this divine intervention. So the people had to somehow either come back to God in some way, either through action and through prayer, or through both. So that's the way I see it.
Maybe they're just going so far away that God's saying, "Look, like Sodom and Gomorrah, you don't like me? All right, I'll show you. I'll just take you out. I don't need you." And all these people who think that, God doesn't need us. He wants us. But he doesn't want us if we don't want him.
No, and that's the terrible...
but there's so many that don't want God.
The terrible...
And you tried talking about God, and now then that's fighting words. That'll get you killed.
Yeah, they don't want God, but the loss of their souls is extreme.
They don't feel they have a soul.
That's fine, and that's free will.
We got these godless, soulless people.
Yeah, well,
they're godless. They're not soulless. They don't know, but they walk with no appreciation of God.
Yeah,
they think that God is for fools.
Well, that's how bad it is, Larry.
That's what I'm saying. That how do you connect with these people?
Well, 1,000 lights come down in the angel of America. Apparently, there's going to be some intervention, just like demons want to convince these poor people that God does not exist. Even the communism, the first political system that actually said God does not exist, everyone else thought something existed, even if it was whatever they prayed to. The communists were the first ones to declare their hatred for God, quote Joseph Torellia. So there's got to be some intervention from heaven that perhaps allows that soul to receive what you're talking about, because right now there's darkness. They don't see it. In fact, even with Charlie speaking out about that necessity and the result of a public execution is like that we're surrounded by darkness.